I hope this wasn't on the recording.
Says recording now. All right. So first point of order, we're following the CNCF code of conduct. So please be excellent to each other, behave and be nice. So far, this meeting instead of a webinar seems to be going quite well. So please have it stay like that. And then, yeah, first announcement is that since Povila stepped down at the end of last year, we were looking for new moderators, and Ben was actually first to reach out. So just like first come, first serve, he's now co-moderator, co-host going forward. So that will be helpful to kind of load balance and not make mistakes like last time twice. So yeah, thanks Ben for stepping up. And with that, we can start with the Prometheus updates and announcement. And I think Richie is gonna go first.
Yes, so this is a half announcement, announcement of considerations. There's currently the discussion going on within Prometheus team on what to, like the discussion on if to open up the Dev Summits more is already done. That's a yes. And you will probably remember this from the second to last Dev Summit meeting notes. We are currently looking at how to do this. In particular, the three main options which are currently being discussed are upload the recording to YouTube, try to do a live stream of the thing, or experiment with opening it up with a panel, or opening it up completely. Those are four options, not three. Anyway, those are the current thoughts we have. Thoughts more than welcome, because it's currently us discussing this. So yeah, anyone who has strong or loose or weak opinions, speak up. And that's it. But basically, the next Dev Summit will be public in some way, and we are figuring out which way. But you're more than welcome to give input on how. I'm done.
All right, cool. Yeah, I was just waiting if somebody wants to speak up, but I think there's also some sort of possibility to reach out to you in this regard, I guess. Otherwise, put the questions into the Q&A in the doc or like in chat here, so we can like cycle back to them later. Awesome, Richie, thanks. Julian, you wanna go next?
Yes, so next week we have the Prometheus 2.25 release. There are still a few pull requests in flight, but we have already like the concept of feature flag, which we will introduce in Prometheus to introduce experimental changes without changing the behavior for the mainstream users. So we have the @ modifier in PromQL to be able to query a vector outside of the query range or at a fixed point in time in the query. And we might also have a remote write support in Prometheus for some use cases when you need to have like federation with resiliency and that kind of things. So this is probably coming in the release next week. So I encourage you to get it as soon as it's there and to try those features. And if you have pull requests in progress, ping me to see like if you want them in the release or not, or like reviews that I would have missed in the last weeks.
All right. Pushgateway, anything?
Yes, so this month we have also released Pushgateway 1.4.0, which include the same mechanism as Prometheus with the basic authentication and the TLS. So now you can, without a reverse proxy, push your metrics to the push gateway using basic authentication or TLS client certificates and that kind of thing. So that has been released a few weeks ago.
All right, awesome. Always making things easier for people to to use. Cool. Yeah, if you have any questions on these topics, put them in the Q&A section or in the chat again, so we can answer them later. And let's continue with Ben on Node Exporter.
Yep, we're just finishing up the last changes to make a new Node Exporter. That should be mostly finalized by Friday so that we can have it out by next week.
Anything you want to share just yet, or?
It's just incremental changes, nothing major. Lots of new features, lots of bug fixes.
Nice. All right. Again, if you have questions, put them in the chat. Awesome. Thanos next. I don't know if Lucas is here or Bartek or wants to take this.
Yeah, good question. Lucas said he is happy to share, but I guess I can see the call. If not, I can take it as well. So we released 0.18.0. The tricky part is that Lucas doesn't have Twitter, so we didn't tweet about that, but it was kind of available for some time. And it's really about query optimizations and rewrite command, which appears in the Thanos tools kind of CLI, and it allows you to finally delete series. It's a kind of batch, let's say, command you can run on yourself. There is no there's no like huge automation around that. But the key part is that allows you manually for now delete certain series from the block. And hopefully this will be a good source for future automation to make metric-based retention and nice things like that. It's called rewrite because we actually would love to see some relabeling there, but making this very efficient is hard. However, any contribution to this piece of software to just enable this, even if not efficient, are very welcome. And other highlights is kind of query front end API support, like we added labels and series endpoints as well there to be cached and splitted even. And then Thanos bucket replicate is just more and more stable. So this kind of ability to replicate blocks across buckets is much easier right now. And there is this new limit on the store gateway as well, which allows you to limit the touched series before they are actually retrieved. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, and even more cool things are coming in the master. But yeah, that's from the 0.18. Any questions, concerns? If not, and like if you have any, just put on the question stage, and I can move to another topic, which is mentoring. We kind of don't want to stop mentoring. I think it was proven to be very nice for people, but also for the project. So what we actually plan to, like what project we are planning to mentor and when. So Community Bridge, something that was organized by CNCF, now is known as LFX. I guess it's just easier to spell. And it's a kind of similar. So it's like a month or 2 months of mentorship. So there are kind of 4 Thanos projects available. I just want to mention that those projects are not the easiest one, but we want to a little bit change technique to this year. We want to kind of team up with the mentees as well and kind of do it together. So we have kind of multi-tenant instrumentation that is kind of missing on Thanos on certain components. We have stateless ruler, so something we wanted to achieve for a long time. Vertical block sharding, which allows compactor to essentially remove the last scalability limit of Thanos compaction, where huge large blocks were compacted together due to vertical compaction. Now we want to make sure this is limited. And exemplars API, we want to ship that into Thanos as well. So all of these are available for mentorship. So feel free to share that outside to university to help young people come to the just open source life. Thank you.
Awesome. Sounds really cool. Cortex people, do you want to continue?
Okay,
Shall I do
so
that? Or...
is there anyone? Yeah, from Cortex? Because I know Peter.
Yeah, Peter wanted to, but couldn't make it, right? Yeah, maybe Brian, you want to take it away?
Yeah. So as the doc says, we have a release candidate for 1.7.0, which adds querying across multiple tenants, which is something a lot of people want to do. Cortex doesn't cover authorization, so you still have to figure out for yourself who is allowed to query across multiple tenants, but the support is there underlying. The bucket index, which is a performance, or probably strictly speaking, a cost optimization. If instead of kind of rescanning your S3 bucket all the time, it builds an index of what's in there. And a very initial support for sharding the alert manager. So that is sitting as an RC because I actually found a bug in it last week. But I think I'm the only person that bug affects, so we might just ship it anyway because I didn't find any other bugs.
I would love to know more about the query kind of across multiple tenants, but like more from the development side, how this is achieved. But maybe it's a good question to have later. What do you think, Matthias?
Okay. Yeah, let's continue with the 2-3 last things, and then let's get into that. Yeah, maybe you can add it to the questions section there for sure. Nice. All right. Cool. Then Terraform provider for Cortex, Julian.
Yes, just wanted to point out that if you are using Cortex and Terraform now, I have released a provider to configure the rules and the alert manager configuration of your Cortex clusters.
Very good. Thanks for sharing. And then I've seen him here on Rob on M3.
Hey, Taz, cheers. Yeah, 1.1.0, which is actually been just really in we've changed a lot of the testing that we're doing now that we're post 1.0. So while 1.1.0, the commit that's there is kind of 3 weeks old, that's been undergoing baking in production environments and end user acceptance testing at various independent end users of M3. So while it's released now, it kind of the changes have been around for quite some time now. That there's not a huge amount of user-facing things. A lot of it's operational kind of niceties. And then I guess like major things of note though is the Kubernetes operator now finally has a getting started guide rather than just the enormous amount of documentation it had previously without really like a user-friendly getting started guide. And there are more absolute resource limits you can put in place as well for really just like multi-user, when you have large amount of users, access to the same DB and coordinators. And yeah, there's obviously more instrumentation, as I kind of alluded to there, on a per endpoint basis, and various other different things that make kind of like observing and operating this a little bit easier depending on your environment. Yeah, that's all I had to share. Thanks a lot.
Nice. Thanks for sharing as always and coming along. Right. Put your questions into the questions section, but we have gathered a couple of ones. There's a first one from Biswajid. Do you want to ask yourself, or should I read it out loud? I think this is more appropriate for the Prometheus office hours, probably for kind of like a deep dive kind of questions. So I just want to point this out. First thing, that there's a weekly, I think, Prometheus office hours where we want to give the opportunity to the community to ask these kind of questions, but maybe someone wants to give like a quick answer anyway.
All right, so we can discuss it later during the Prometheus office hours.
Sorry, say it again. Was a bit quiet.
So we can discuss this later than during the Prometheus office hours.
Okay, I mean, whatever you want. We can also dedicate like a minute or two to it.
I mean, it's fine. I mean, it's fine.
Okay. Yeah, then, yeah, if you didn't know, as I said, there's the Prometheus office hours, so this would be a perfect place to ask that kind of question. Then let's give ahead. There was a question, who is the internship with Thanos intended for?
Yeah, very good question. And like there is particular kind of criteria. And I will need to kind of find out the actual link, but I have like a screenshot from someone. And the things are like, there is essentially criteria that CNCF creates, or like kind of the Linux Foundation, by the way. And I can list some, but essentially it's really anyone new to the ecosystem, new to the, for example, Thanos project, and kind of contributing there. Normally it used to be just a student, but it's not necessary. It can be someone very familiar in, for example, development, but interested into getting more into open source and community-driven effort. So, you know, there is some, you need to be adult, you need to be in some kind of country where there is a support for this mentorship, but it's like very, very large number of those countries. So it's literally kind of country location based a little bit. You need to be kind of independent. Anything else which is huge, some legal stuff. I would say I would just link, but the key part is that you should be not a pure participant, maintainer, contributor involved with the project for which they want to be MNT. So really, this is the core thing.
I think if you were a mentee, doesn't matter which project, you cannot apply anymore, unfortunately.
That's another point. So you cannot be a second-time mentee in the same mentorship.
Could you, in that case, I actually might be interested. So could you, for example, provide to the doc for the meeting the link for application? Thank you.
We do.
Awesome. Yeah, hopefully we'll see you around more frequently if that is going to be successful.
Yeah. I just want to mention, like, there was a good case. We have Jessica, who were like super experienced software developer and just pretty new to open source, and it was super nice experience, and she was totally agreeable for all of this. Yeah. So I will post the link later. So question from my side is essentially, do you know, maybe Brian, I don't know, maybe you were not part of this thing, but do you know the TLDR, how this works? I read the docs, but
yeah. So start with the request that comes in is a HTTP request. What we used to have is a header, a field in the header that says which tenant are you querying for. So that gets expanded to a list. It's just a string. It's like pipe separated. So tenants 1, 2, and 5. And then that gets passed all the way down. When we actually end up in a place where we're going to do the query, we basically just run, in that case, 3 queries and attach an extra label, which is tenant ID, and then merge all the results back together.
Makes sense, right? So it's funny because it's end up being the same as we do in Thanos, which is prom label proxy. So using kind of this component, the only difference is that we have the tenant label already kind of propagated through the system, versus you are doing this on runtime, which is fine as well. So, oh yeah, that's good to know. Thank you.
Any other questions? We still have a couple of minutes, so feel free to ask away. now's the time. All right. Then I guess there aren't any more questions out there. All right. Then thank you for participating. Oh, now there's a question. Is there any benchmarking available on Cortex multi-tenancy? Just second question. Did Brian just leave? Or someone from Cortex can answer that? I think Brian might have just left. I think that was too late. So maybe next time be more responsive. Yeah, follow up later. There's a Cortex channel in the CNCF Slack, for example, where you can ask questions. And then there is, should we make a proposal for the mentorship? Not sure what making a proposal means. There were several projects proposed by the maintainers, and you can apply for as a mentee. Yeah, you essentially just when the thing will be announced, so I think pretty soon, like this week, hopefully, you will have like the process to click through, and there will be literally your CV and some the cover letter. And so in the cover letter, you can mention how would you attack this proposal. That would help us definitely to just see if you could be, independent, if you kind of, yeah, it will help us to choose the best candidate, but that's it. All right, then thank you everybody for joining. Next month, first Wednesday of the month, that time will be 9 a.m. UTC, so way earlier again, and I will see you then, I guess. Thank you and have a nice evening or day or whatever, local time. Bye-bye.